Very good evening, everybody. This is Gulf Harbour Radio, Patricia and David, ZMH286, and it is that's 2 days in a row. Unbelievable after many months of misery, but we've had an absolute ripper, snorter of a day here. 82% relative humidity at the moment, 17 degrees. It's been pretty much no wind from the north. It's about 2 knots from the north. 1021. 17 degrees, I mentioned that. Yes, I did. I put that first and last because that's not too bad when it's flat calm. It's been absolutely glorious. We even went down to the marina and gave our poor boat a much-deserved clean-up. But we're right underneath the flight path for China Eastern Airways, who head off each night at 8:30. Absolutely full to the brim because it's quite a sooty mess underneath. Well, that's what I put it down to anyway. It's just quite hard to get off the boat, really. But when it's a glorious weather like this, you don't mind doing that. But I can't just think of any news that might be of interest to you. There was a report of a very lucky diver here in Auckland who was under one of the Auckland ferries looking at something, or taking some pictures actually, and he surfaced, but they started the engine thinking he was up, but he had an umbilical cord down to where he was working. He had one of these sort of hard hat type things on, and that got caught in the propeller and sucked him into it. He is in hospital, but he is alive. Unbelievable, really. So it's boy, you have to be ever so careful when you're underneath one of those big things. Anyway, I thought what we'd do is David's been sweating out whether there is a passage next week. So I thought we might do his weather first, and then I will talk to, we've just got a few boats checking in. Pretty much all of them I've got on AIS, except for Sweetwater's, where it's about 13 hours old. But anyway, here's David first to tell us what's going on for those that are still waiting.
Yeah, okay, thank you. And we have had a lot of requests regarding trying to get out of Dodge, so to speak. Quite a few people are wanting to go to Tonga, Minerva first, typically, and then on to Tonga, and then some of them on to Fiji as well. So looking at those of you that are still currently here in New Zealand, obviously, you've seen, I'm sure you've all looked at your grids, and you all are looking at this depression that's heading toward New Zealand. And we're going to get some pretty nasty weather over the weekend. So you pretty much could scratch any ideas, I think, of leaving Saturday or Sunday. As an example, Sunday here in the Brett area, northeast 30 knots. And that's going to be very, very rough seas and quite a large northeasterly swell is going to develop as well. And then on Monday, it eases a bit. Met Service claims northerly about 20 knots, but boy, it's still going to be quite rough out there. On Monday starts to ease on Tuesday. That doesn't mean that the seas really have gone down all that much as well. So I'm going to do just a general overview of the Southwest Pacific like I have done in the last number of days, and start off with, I think, Tonga first, furthest east of the boats that we know about. And hang on here. So we have got a fair amount of weather that's developing up in the Tonga area, and we're looking at marine weather mostly. But we now have got gale warnings have been upgraded for the NUAs. We like to call them new potatoes. It's just north of Tonga Tapu. It's the group of
Nui Tukatapu.
Yeah, Nui Tukatapu. Is that the right name? Nui Tukatapu, but we say new potatoes. Anyway.
I don't say new potatoes.
Like it. And anyhow, gale warnings. So there, along with that, there's going to be a damaging swell that's going to be in force for that area as well. And pretty much we're going to have small craft warnings in force for Vavau and the Hapais. So we've got new potatoes with gale, val, and then Hapais as we go further south, small craft warnings. And then for tomorrow, for new potatoes, the new potatoes area, we're looking at gusts 30 to 40 knots at times up there. So those winds are going to become northeasterly, and the seas are expected to be 4 to 5 meters. So not good at all. And along with that is that damaging southeasterly swell that's going to build up, and they're talking about 4 meters for that too. So when you've got islands that are obviously not much in the way of a lot of land area before you hit the sea, you potentially have got a lot of flooding and worrying conditions regarding that. For the Hapais and Baval, a little bit further south, east to northeast winds rising 25 to 30 knots. This is for tomorrow, 25 to 30 knots. And the rough seas are expected to be about 3 meters. And what else? For Tonga Tapu, further to the south, be the first group that you would come to as you're heading north. Not too bad there at all. Southeast winds about 10 to 15. So most of the bad stuff is to the north, and how long that will continue, not so sure. So what we'll do is jump over to Fiji very quickly, and Fiji Met is calling off a trough of low pressure, in other words, a depression. It's going to lie just slow moving just to the north of Fiji itself, the general group of islands, and associated cloud and showers are expected to affect, mostly the northern parts of the group through tonight and through a lot of tomorrow. But late tomorrow, you could expect southeast winds about 15 to 20, and the winds are expected to become easterly as the day rolls on. And along with that are moderate to rough seas, and pretty much the same for swell as well. And then the further outlook, another day goes by, east to northeast winds 15 to 20, and again moderate seas and moderate swell as well. And if you look at your satellite imagery for that area, we'll look at kind of the big picture for the Southwest Pacific. Now we've got a broken trough, if you will, that's going to lie just to the southwest of Tuvalu, and it runs east-southeast, doesn't quite get as far east as Wallace, but a different one forms, and this is a pretty big troughing system, main part of the South Pacific Convergence Zone, and it's running all through the Solomons. It's picking up almost the entire group of the Solomons. It runs north of Vanuatu, so it's not affecting Vanuatu at the moment, but it is going to affect Rotuma, which is, as you know, is just to the north of the main body of islands of Fiji. Now, to the north of that, I would say, what would we call it? We'll call it about maybe 12 degrees north, and pretty much the date line. The small depression forms, and that depression, apart from the coordinates that I just gave you, if you can visualize where Rotuma is, and where Wallace and Futuna are, it lies directly in between those three. So there's a depression that's forming there. And it continues to run southeast to, again, the northern parts, New Potatoes part of Tonga, and it goes just to the north of Niue and goes on there to the southern coast as well. Now, there is another a frontal band, and this is running from, I would say, Vanuatu. It runs to the southeast. I would say if you were looking at coordinates, just put your little pointer at 20 degrees south, and I would say 174 degrees west. So run your line from Vanilla Lagoon to the coordinate that I just gave you. It then runs onward to the southeast, and it's really out of the picture for you. So that is pretty good news in itself. So let's forget about all that now and take a look at what the two basic models are doing. And I'm going to just be looking at EC, ECNWF, and GFS. Now I also look at the bomb model. I also look at blocking models. There are models that show you what the anticyclone situation is, how big they are, and if they are actually going to cause some blocking as well. I also look at the MJO cycle, where we are there as well. Anyway, looking at the blocking forecast, I can see that we are going to have some very, very large in area and pressure of anticyclones. One, if we were to look at Tuesday as an example, which is when a number of yachts apparently are wanting to head out on Tuesday, we have one. It's not exactly a blocking anticyclone, but it's extremely slow moving, and the center of it is probably about 35 south, and we'll call it 165 west. But it's huge. The isobars, obviously anticyclonic isobars, they run all the way up almost to the equator, and south to probably 50 or 55 south, and they run east well past French Polynesia. The west side of this huge anticyclone, it runs to, we'll call it, well, the best way to say it is we'll call it almost north-south in terms of a line for the western part of this, but it's about the date line roughly, maybe just a little bit west of the date line, maybe about 178 east, that kind of a thing. Now, if you remember, I tell you that be wary of the left shoulders of these very large anticyclones or highs, because that's where very typically we find depressions that form. Well, that's what's going to happen now. We're going to get very strong winds on Tuesday now, and they're going to be running, basically, if you were just to look at a chart, they'll be running up and down almost the date line. So in other words, picture the date line north and south, and everything to the east of that is where we're going to have some very, very strong winds, and the possibility of a depression forming there. But I don't see at the moment a depression that's actually forming. What we are going to see, though, is a very, very strong band of winds, but they don't go west. So in other words, if you were to draw a line between, say, Marsden or Opua and draw a line to, Fiji, basically, it will be right on the edge of these high winds, and that would be in the Thursday time frame. And then the low forms. The actual low, in fact, forms, which conforms to the theory that we have of what happens when you get polar dips in these large highs. So that low then on, we'll call it about dinner time on Thursday, it's going to be roughly, we'll call it about 30. Yeah, we'll call it about 28 maybe, 28 south, and just east of, of the date line, just east of the date line. So you basically have got cyclonic winds that are forming there. Now, the yachts that are sailing from New Zealand, from the Marsden or Opua area, I don't know where you would be if you left on Tuesday, but that would be, 3 days? You'd be about halfway maybe to Minerva Reef at that point. So if you don't crack the throttle all the way and keep it fairly slow, I think that you may wind up missing this altogether, because it's going to start to move east at that point. It actually gets stronger, but it also goes more to the east. So that means if you were going to go to Minerva Reef, you would have essentially south-southwest winds, give or take on that. But wouldn't be on the nose, which is good news. And the wind speeds are not going to be gale force, but they certainly are going to be fresh winds. So I guess what I'm saying there is that departure on Tuesday might not be the best idea, but a perhaps better idea would be leaving on Wednesday. And then take your time to head to Minerva. Now, these are the boats that are going to Minerva, and then from there to Fiji or Tonga. The boats that are going to Vanuatu or New Caledonia could actually leave on Tuesday with no worries at all. But from what we can see on the emails that we've gotten, most everybody is going to go to Minerva and then on to Tonga and then on to Fiji. So if you're those boats, then I think Wednesday would be a better idea. Now, this is just a personal opinion. This is not advice at all. So what you need to do is continue to look at your grids and use, in our opinion, just stick with two of them. Again, we like EC and we like GFS, and look for them to be fairly consistent in what they are saying is going to happen. And so far, from what I've seen for the next few days, they are. You cannot expect them to be exactly on top of each other. It's asking a little bit too much for a model. But anyway, they're looking pretty good for that sort of scenario. So this is This is Friday, right?
Yep.
So look at Saturday, Sunday.
Monday.
Look at Monday. Now, I don't know how much time you need to get your clearance and so forth and so on. But certainly you don't have to make a firm decision until Sunday at least. But certainly by Sunday, what I've just given you right now will change a little bit. It may change a lot, but it will change. That's just the nature of the beast. So what we'll do is we'll be keeping a close eye on this, because it seems like so many of you are going to go and are anxious to go. So that's what we'll do, and we'll see how things look. Sunday would be the best bet. We'll be on the radio. Normally we wouldn't be, but during this passage period, we certainly will be. So anyway, we'll check with you tomorrow, Saturday, and we'll do the same thing on Sunday, which will be the important day, really. And
See what we got.
all we can say is don't jump the gun. No need to jump the gun at this point. So I'll wind it up and give it to the chief.
I'm not sure that you said anything about those that are on passage, but we'll have that opportunity now. It looks absolutely glorious sailing for the boats that we are talking to, easterlies to east-southeast, and just in that nice 10 to 15 by the look of it.
I'm going to talk about that.
Oh, well, you are going to talk about it. Hang on.
Yeah, well, it looks glorious, all right, if you're a bird. But I'll tell you what, there's a lot of north to northeast winds that are coming out to New Zealand from the north of New Zealand, up from Fiji, Minerva, Tonga. Those are some very, very strong winds that are coming into New Zealand. So you are going to get hammered very, very heavily if you think you're going to go now and take...
No, I'm talking about the ones that are on their way now.
Well, I'm talking about them too. She asked, what about the ones that are on their way? It depends on where you are. If you are, say, at 33 south, well, the odds are you're going to get hammered pretty well. But if you're up much higher than that, if you're up around 25, 24, like that, by Monday, as an example, the winds are still going to be in a northeasterly quadrant, but they won't be as strong. There are areas of very fresh winds, though, that will be in the neighborhood of 25 or 30 knots, but it's not rosy at all. So anyhow, I guess if you haven't left yet, again, just put far neutral, and we'll wait and see.
Well, in that case, we'll enjoy the winds while they are in the east-southeast direction. Okay, let's see what propagation's like tonight. Mackay, Gulf Harbour.
Roger, Gulf Harbour, this is sailing vessel Mackay. Good evening, Patricia.
Oh, and a very good signal from you as usual, Barry. So how about, it looks like you're doing rather well. You're the furthest north. Anyway, go ahead, over.
Okay, Roger, we're at 29 degrees south, 17611 degrees east, and currently going dead north. Of course, our ground is dead north. We're making about 5.8 knots. We have wind 22 knots from the straight east, 22 knots straight east. Our swells are, I'm going to say, about 2.5 meters, or maybe some bigger ones every now and then are 3 meters, but we're going to go with 2.5 meters. Got 10-20 on the bar, and the sky condition is, I guess, about 70%. There's some squalls running through every now and then, so we got 70% on the sky condition. Everything else is fine. All is well on board, and we're just trying to get as north as quick as we can. Over.
Yep, sounds good policy. Mackay is at 2927. 17611 east, heading straight north, 5.3 I think it was, 22 knots of east, which is more than what the GFS is giving you, so that's interesting. 2.5 metre swell, 1020, 70% cloud cover with occasional squalls, and all is well on board.
On that, Patricia, that's right. The wind is variable. It's dropping, I'd say it's anywhere from 18 to 25, and so we're kind of like hovering right around in that range.
Yeah, okay. Thanks for that information. So what's happening is that the big giant high, or BFH, as Bob likes to call it, big fat high, those isobars are going to back considerably over the next couple of days. So while you've got easterlies right now, you're going to see the winds backing to the east-northeast and then the northeast. Now what's causing that those isobars to twist is the depression that I talked about earlier when we first started talking. That depression that's heading and will hit New Zealand tomorrow, probably. So it's pushing against that high, pushing very, very hard against it, and causing those isobars to back, basically. So you could expect that's what's going to happen. And as you head further north, that's good news in the sense that the wind will become a little bit less. If you weren't as far north as you are now, if you were much further to the south, then you would, I'd be slightly concerned because the winds would be certainly higher. But the next couple of days, you'll pick up 4 or 5 degrees easily, it sounds like, at the speed that you're going. And while the winds may be backing, like I just said, there'll be a lot less of it. So it's not going to be too bad, from what I can say. Over.
Okay, Roger, thank you very much for that, David. Yeah, the plan of action here was to just kind of clock around with the winds as they started turning east to northeast, and we would just go ahead and bend around with them until we kind of pop out the other side and then are able to take a more of a direct line into Fiji. Over.
Yeah, I'd say that's a very good plan. Over.
Okay, thank you very much for that. I don't have anything else. I just want to add that Alula, sailing vessel Alula, is listening in. They probably won't be transmitting. They've got low battery right now, and so are trying to conserve power there. So I don't have anything else. This is sailing vessel Mackay. It's back to Patricia.
Yeah, thanks, Barry. And yes, we had a listener last night on streaming who was very interested in your antenna setup. I had a quick question. Are you using Dyneema for all your shrouds and stays? Over?
No, negative. I wanted to, but my rigger convinced me that if I didn't want to be fiddling with tension of the rig all the time, that I shouldn't do it. And he's probably right. I mean, it took a while for this backstay to set in, but no, it's just a Dyneema backstay with an 14 gauge insulated antenna wire, multi-strand antenna wire, run up inside the braid, and then it comes out at the top like a stitch. It is secured up there, and that comes out at the bottom at the slice and goes directly to the antenna tuner. There's nothing in between it. Over.
Yeah, no, it's just an amazing signal that you've got. And the report I had was over in the southern part of New South Wales, so it's really getting out. Okay, well, hopefully you'll be standing by in case we can make something of Calamera, but I'll just give the Alula position. It wasn't so long ago, 3010 south and 17713 east. They were quite slow, 3.9 on a course of 005. And I guess that their wind is not that much different from what you've got in the 15 to 20, maybe a bit more. So I hope all is well on board Alula, and thank you for the report from them. Okay, let's go to Calamera, Gulf Harbour.
Gulf Harbour Radio, this is Calamera receiving, over.
Better signal from you tonight. Obviously you've got further away, so good show. Go ahead.
Yes, Patricia, we're located at 30 degrees, 51 minutes south, 177 degrees, 09 east, and sailing at about 15 knots. We're reaching about 1.2 over.
Yeah, I got a bit confused with the course and speed, but I have you at 3051 and 17709 east. Could you give me course speed and your wind conditions?
Wind conditions are 15 to 20 knots variable from the east. Our speed around 5 to 5.5 knots, and the swell is from the northeast, running at about 3 metres. Over.
Well, that's quite a healthy swell, isn't it? Okay, so about 5 knots with 15 to 20 from the east. Nice sailing conditions. Northeast, apart from that damn swell, northeast 3 metres, which must be a bit annoying. But yeah, it sounds like, I guess, all well on board. No complaints, are there, except for the swell? Over.
Right, all well on board, and everyone's wishing for the swell to engine all. Over.
Yep, all right. Well, you would have heard David discussing the weather. So it's, another day of reasonable, apart from that swell. Boy, that is a bit annoying. Yes, Barry mentioned the 2.5 to 3 metres too. So, Oh well,
Well,
I guess
it's the squash zone.
it's the squash zone, says the mutterer beside me. Yep, I guess we have to put up with that to get those anti-cyclone winds. All right, well, that was good. Thank you very much. I presume I'm talking to Graham, and we'll check with you again tomorrow night. Over.
Thanks very much, Patricia. We'll talk tomorrow night, and we'll be ahead.
Yeah, oh, it was good to get a good signal from you. Okay, now let's see if we can find Sweetwaters, because your AIS, Stephen, is 14 hours old. I guess it doesn't like working too frequently, so we'll be interested to see where you are now.
Harbour, this is Sweetwater. Do you copy? Over.
I have very good copy on you, Liv, so go ahead, over.
Yeah, we know about the AIS. Can I give you my position over?
Absolutely, go ahead, and then I'll be able to see how far behind Kulfi is. Go ahead.
31 degrees 00 south, 172 degrees 24 east. Our course 326 degrees 2. Wind from the east 17 north, 17 north, 12.5 meters southeast, 12.5 meters, 40% cloud, barometric pressure 1022, dropping over the day, and boat speed 6.7 knots. The crew are all well, and we have started 200 nautical miles. Over.
Aha! Well done. Yeah, I checked you a few times today and looked at pretty good speed. Yeah, that's really good to get a 200-mile day. Well done. So we have Sweetwaters at 3100 south on their way to Vanuatu, 17224 east on a course of 326 true, currently around 6.7. Really nice wind, east 17. 2.5 metres swell from the southeast, which for you guys going where you're going, that's sort of quite helpful. 20% cloud cover, 1022, and it's dropped. So yeah, it sounds like a very good day. I'll just see if David's got an outlook for you.
So, just chat for a second.
Oh, he said I'm allowed to chat for a second. Yeah, we were down at the marina today. It was so funny because, you know, it's a lot of us have not got our boats ready for winter because the weather has been so grubby. But with the last 2 days, it's been absolutely glorious. And down there, you'd think it was a summer weekend because everybody was sort of on their boat doing bits and bobs, cleaning and that sort of thing. And it was really, really pleasant. So, but of course, we're not going to have it lasting through the weekend. But, you know, everyone is so cheerful today because it's just been such dreadful weather, as you know, from being further down the dock, and it's been hard to do things. So we've all enjoyed it. Anyway, here's David.
Well, things are going to work out pretty well for you, I think, because you're going to be on the top side of this depression that we're talking about. So come Sunday, the winds look like they'll be in the northwest direction, give or take on that, probably about 17, 18, 19 knots, like that. But then on Monday, as it starts to, the depression that is, starts to move toward New Zealand and you are moving further toward Vanuatu, your winds are going to drop considerably. So I would say on Monday, just hang on. I have to pause because if I don't, the RF totally messes up this computer. But you're going to wonder what happened to the wind because it looks like it'll be probably still northwest, but you're going to be lucky to see 10 knots out of it, I think. Over.
She might She'll be.
Okay, thanks, guys. Over.
You should cope with that.
Okay, here's the cheese.
All right, well, let's see. Colfie is about 100 miles to your south-southeast based on their AIS report, but I'll just see if I can find them. Have a very good evening, you guys. Boy, Stephen must have the whip out to be getting that good performance, so maybe you can have another good day tomorrow and then you'll be ready to rest when those light winds come. So thanks for that report. Let's see if we can find Colfie Gulf Harbour Radio. No, nothing heard. Maybe they'll come up on the other one. So they were at 3247. This is a few minutes ago, 17320. And they were doing 7.3 at a course of 332. So pretty much on the same line as you guys, but about 104 miles to the south-southeast. So there you go. Okay, well, good signals tonight. So is there anybody wanting to join us at Gulf Harbour Radio? Please call. Hello, Laura Dawn. Whereabouts are you guys now?
We're actually in Tonga. We left Nicholas this morning to get forward to Fiji Island, and then we ended up in the next. The weather is as per David predicted by the limit. We left Nicholas at 5 a.m. By the time we got to BC, we were facing 25 knots. As far as up to from there. So we've come up to the Namuka Bridge and we've driven from there without a bit of wind assistance. Over.
Okay, so up in the Namukas, hopefully that wind won't get, it's much worse further north, as you would have heard him talk about. So hope you got a good anchorage there. Is there anything further you want to talk about in the Namukas?
Not much.
No, not really, just from what you said. I meant to comment before that there's quite a few boats heading to Tonga because with the southerly quadrant winds, all the mob that was sort of heading to Niue from the east are all progressing on to Tonga. So it is going to get pretty busy there. So we'll see what. Actually, some of them look as if they're going over the top, maybe going straight to Fiji. So that would make Tonga a bit more peaceful. But yeah, all right. Well, yes, it's going to pick up a bit for you, but we'll hopefully you've got a good anchorage, over.
Yeah, we're coming tonight, and we'll just keep pressing back a few occasionally. Like to hear your voice.
Yeah, nice to talk to you guys too. Okay, all right. Is there anybody else for Gulf Harbour? Nothing heard. I'm going to have a quick check on 8297 and then we'll be back again with you folk tomorrow night. So those boats at sea have a very pleasant evening and enjoy those boats that are still waiting to go. Happy procrastinations. See that the handsome Hulk has said thank you to David. I do get a chuckle out of some of your boats that get AIS from Fijian. Okay, we're transferring to 8297. Good evening all. There's clearly lightning in places. This is Gulf Harbour Radio, ZMH 286. Is there anybody on 8297 for us? This is 8297 Gulf Harbour Radio. Nothing heard. We'll be back on 8752 tomorrow evening at 0515 UTC. And anyone who wants to contact us, ghradio@extra.co.nz. Cheers all.
Yeah.